2010, and you join us for the military martial music, which is the armed forces and pipe and drum bands from India. 14 military bands, 17 pipe and drum bands of various regiments and battalions of the Indian Army. And of course there is one band of the Air Force and also Navy. And this type of music and marching almost went out of existence when the British left. In fact, in 1950, General K.M. Cariappa, the Commander-in-Chief, established an Indian military school of music. And prior to that, a lot of the members actually left India and went across to Pakistan. So in fear of this going out of existence, they started a school, and then the music was mostly British or Western, and gradually a small group of Indian composers sprung up composing Indian music for the bands. And Folklore Tim says that the music contributed to the strength of the Indian Defence Forces.
And it's a nice way early in the ceremony of foreshadowing the handover, which will occur later on from India to Scotland in 2014, when Glasgow will be the host city.
Some of the music performed tonight is familiar to most Indians, including at the very end the Sari Jahan Siacha, which is taught in all schools throughout India, and it's a song that translates roughly to India is the best country in the world, so it's a song of pride.
Lots of bagpipes, but no kilts.
No, I think we'll see a lot of them in a moment. Major Surrender Kumar, who is conducting both the pipe and drum bands. That was Major Surrender Kumar.
Strange name for a military man, Surrender Kumar. He's doing a fine job, though. He's got 650 musicians to look after, and he has not missed a beat.
So some military pomp and ceremony, Indian style, not concepts that we necessarily put together on a regular basis, but India can certainly do it. I was covering the marathon today and looked in awe at the runners as they made their way down the Raj Part, the King's Way or Royal Parade that runs between the Presidential Palace and the towering and majestic War Memorial, India Gate, and spoke of the fact, as I've been told, as we studied the marathon course, that on the 26th of January each year, India's National Day as well as Australia's, there is a military parade down there and tens of thousands gather on either side, and if you've had a look down it, you can only imagine how grand an occasion it would be.
If you ever come to India and Delhi and you're near India Gate, you must go on a Sunday, Tim. The entire area is covered by what would have to be described as 250 games of separate cricket, and it is absolute cricket madness. So if you're in Delhi on a Sunday, India Gate is your spot.
They play anywhere they can, don't they?
Absolutely. And with the great man Tendulkar knocking off a lazy 214 against Australia this week and averaging 100 for the year, it'd be nice to see him pop in at some stage.
We may have beaten India on the medal tally, but they're very quick to remind us about the cricket.
Very quick.
And I think one of the most interesting aspects is the effect of these games is felt in India as the weeks turn into months and years, is how the things that have occurred here, the successes of Indian athletes, start to rub off on the younger generation in particular in this vast nation, because as we know, it's cricket mad, but its sporting interests have tended to be fairly one-dimensional, and perhaps this will be the start of change and might be seen historically as a moment when India began to become a sporting superpower, because surely it must be capable of that at some point.
And the crowd certainly revolve around the Indians. Tim, you were here when they came 1, 2 and 3 in the discus, the Indian women, the other night, and by gee, they made some crowd in this grand stadium.
And when they won the relay on the last night of the track and field 2 nights ago, the women in the 4x400, and the crowds grew with almost every day of competition, which I thought was significant. This may have had something to do with ticketing problems, which apparently were felt very keenly, and it's hard to understand in our country where these matters are handled so efficiently, but I suppose it speaks of the lack of sporting and organisational culture in India, that would be part of the reason why people weren't making it to the arenas for the events. But as the days wore on, they did begin to come, and by the end of it, we had a crowd, I would think, of about 55,000.
A lot of the children were given school holidays early, so that aided in having some crowds. I know at the pool in particular, how Ian, you saw it, it certainly started to catch on by about day 2, that the pool was the place to come and see, and the Indians were making semi-finals and finals in some cases. Gee, they were loud. They loved it.
You can't put a figure on the crowd due to the noise. If you go to the hockey, India versus Pakistan the other night, they told me there was 20,000 in there. It was genuinely louder than 90,000 at the MCG. It's such a passionate, loud and a constant crowd. There's no break in the cheering.
military bands are being led and conducted by Vijay Singh, Major Vijay Singh. And now you hear the crowd get a little bit excited. This is the Sari Jahan Siacha, which is India is the best country in the world, and as I said, taught in schools, and children sing it in schools.
And it was pointed out to me as I studied the marathon course by one of our Indian educators who have been so helpful to us that the word Vijay means victory.
Okay.
We hear of lots of Indians who have the name Vijay. I didn't know that. Well might we see the military on display here, because the security that has cloaked these games has given confidence to us all and has been very efficient